Today's special unit can be hurtful, devastating, the bane of many an unfortunate Marine. It's the Baneling. The Baneling is the Zerg's anti-light, splash damage extraordinaire. They can be morphed from Zerglings so long as a Baneling nest is present on the map. For the price of an additional 25 minerals and 25 gas, you too can turn your Zerglings into a Diamond Terran's third scariest nightmare, right behind the existence of a probe and having to play a TVT match, of course. 30 life, 0 armor, and their only tag is biological. The Baneling's attack is a bit special. Volatile Burst deals 16 damage, or 35 versus light targets, or 80 versus structures, to all enemies within 2.2 range of the explosion.
This better be good.
A few special notes: Banelings have a manual detonation key, which will cause immediate explosion, dealing the damage to any enemies that are within the splash range at its current location. If a Baneling is killed prior to completing its attack, the explosion will still be triggered, dealing the damage to any enemies that are within its splash range. Lastly, the sad truth. Yes, the Baneling's attack also kills the detonating Baneling. They're very committed to their work. Before I talk about usage, a research to highlight available at the Baneling nest once a lair is present on the map. Centrifugal hooks costs 150, and does two things. 1. It increases the movement speed of Banelings from 3.5 to 4.13. Secondly, it increases the maximum health of Banelings from 30 to 35. I cannot stress how crucial this upgrade is for Banes. It is up there for the most impactful upgrades in the game contest. Let's talk about attacking into enemies. Remember when I said that if a Baneling is killed, its attack occurs? That means that you don't technically have to attack in order to, attack. If a Bane is on an attack move, it will detonate on the first enemy that it touches. If it's on a move command, however, it will try to move around the enemy, and in the case of these grouped up Marines, reach more enemies prior to its detonation. Next up, let's talk burrow. You all know about burrowed Banes, right? Those epic highlight clips with casters shouting. Yeah, those. It's not worth it. The core issue has absolutely nothing to do with the Banelings. It's all about player attention. If you have the APM, if you have the mental space to manage your macro, your production, all the while keeping an eye on the Banes, then sure, go for it. Getting 16 Marines for the cost of only 2 Banelings is a magnificent trade, but if your macro starts to slip because you're spending more time focusing on the Banes, you get it. Finally, I want to highlight the Bane's potential as a harassment unit. There's 3 supporting points here. One being the bonus versus light targets helps to make quick work of workers. Their high damage versus structures is helpful for breaking down walls. And lastly, if your opponent is not aware, there is no reactive micro that can save them. Once the Baneling attacks, the damage is done. As one of the premier splash and anti-light options for the Zerg, Banelings have their uses in all three matchups. They can also be one of the more frustrating things to fight. One wrong move and your bio army is taking an acidic bath. Counterplay options are plentiful, but center around a few key details. First, you have to ask yourself, do I try to kill the Banes, or instead try to mitigate the damage, reduce their efficiency? The most lethal thing to a Bane is undoubtedly splash damage, so the kill options tend to be centered around those units. For mitigating the damage, however, there's two prevailing strategies. You can either micro and split your army up to reduce splash potential, or try to get some non-light units in the way to soak the Baneling hits, and pray your opponent isn't doing the move command trick. Terran players, the battle between Marines and Banelings has been going on since Wings of Liberty and is unlikely to go away. First, the splash damage options. Both siege tanks and widow mines are solid, but have different strengths. The mines will one-shot all Banelings in their attack, but then their attack is spent. The tanks are worthless in melee, but they have a longer attack range and are stronger versus a wider range of threats than the widow mines. On the mitigation side of the spectrum, your options semi-depend on your build. If you're having a bio army, you can either split and pray to Byun, or build marauders and trust in cure. Mech lover? Well, you probably won't see Banelings very much, but if you do, just lean into the Thors and the siege tanks. With 0-0 upgrades on the Banes, it takes a total of 27 Banelings to kill a Thor. 27. Protoss. Banes are seen surprisingly often, despite most of Protoss armies not being light tagged. The number one answer that I want to recommend is the Archon. They've got splash, bonus damage versus biological, and no light tag. In the earlier stages of the match, your safety stalkers and oracles should be fine enough to handle an early Baneling pressure. The blink stalkers are also your best option if you want to go the split route. Lastly, High Templar and their psionic storms can be devastating. With a total of only 35 health, the Banelings have a very short window of time to get out of the storm. Zerg players, Banelings help to define the first few minutes of a ZVZ match. That Ling Bane phase can get messy. The way to deal with it lies in surviving long enough to reach Roach Tech. With their high life and armored status, Roaches simply don't have to care that much about Banelings. Although uncommon, it is not far-fetched to see some Banes later on in a match as well. They can do well versus a group of exposed Hydralisks. The late game shutdown can be either Mutalisks or Lurkers. They both have their strengths, they both have their APM requirements, and I must say there is always the idea of just building more Roaches. Part of it does depend on what else is going on in the match. When dealing with something this acidic, it's important to remember the basics. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful and that you have a great day.